The sealed pocket register for void sector Kethnal had not been queried in 31 years. That was the first thing I noted in my log when the anomaly flag came through. Veth Saril, Grade 6 Archivist, Registry Station Irevathi, 4th Cataloging Division of the Irevathi Dominion. Timestamp 3:17 local station time. The flag was routine, a mass density reading from the outer survey drone net, a gravitational shimmer in an area the archive of all things listed as empty, surveyed, catalogued, and sealed. There was nothing in void sector Kethnal. There had been nothing in void sector Kethnal for as long as the archive held records. The archive is never wrong. That is not pride. That is the foundational law of the Irevathi Dominion. We have catalogued every vessel, every structure, every mass above 12,000 tons within 11 sectors. We have done this for 460 years. Every ship that has ever moved through Irevathi-administered space has an entry, a classification, a threat tier rating, a history. The archive is the Dominion. The archive does not make errors. I queried the sealed pocket file. The file was intact, sealed by registry authority 31.7 years prior, marked survey complete, no objects of record. The surveying vessel had swept the pocket, found nothing, locked the register and moved on. Standard procedure. 31 years of silence in a catalogued void. I flagged the anomaly for Fleet Command and went back to my overnight queue. Fleet Command responded in 4 minutes. That was fast. They wanted a cordon. I did not question it. Grade 6 archivists do not question Fleet Command. I logged the cordon request, noted the arrival window for the enforcement fleet, enforcement group Keth, 40,000 ships of the line, dispatched from the 3rd muster station, and opened a secondary monitor window to watch the deployment. I have been an archivist for 14 years. I have logged cordon requests for sealed pocket anomalies before. The usual response is 600 ships, sometimes 800 for a large mass reading. 40,000 was not a number I had seen activated for anything short of open hostilities. That should have told me something. The enforcement fleet took 11 hours to reach the cordon boundary. 40,000 ships, arranged in a 6-layer spherical containment formation, every angle covered, the sensor web overlapping to triple redundancy. Fleet Commander Osrin Val transmitted the go-ahead for active scan at 1441. I remember watching the formation on my secondary display, the precision of it, the scale of it, and thinking that whatever was in that pocket, the Dominion had decided it was not going to leave. I ran the scan from my station, as is protocol for a registry archivist on record. The active ping goes out under the archivist's seal. Whatever is in the pocket, the scan is official, the data is logged, the archive is updated. I have run thousands of active scans. The ping takes 0.6 seconds to reach the anomaly at cordon distance, 0.6 seconds to return. I have run this calculation so many times I do it without thinking. Standard mass and composition return, catalogued automatically, file updated, job complete. I sent the ping at 1442.07. The return came back in 1.2 seconds. Correct travel time, correct geometry. The mass profile was enormous, 5.8 kilometers of dense hull alloy, a configuration the shape recognition library could not match to any known vessel class, but it was a return, not a weapon discharge, a passive object reflecting an active scan. I began filling in the archive entry. Vessel object Kethnal 7. Length 5.8 km. Hull material, dense ferrous composite, aged, oxidized. No active power signature, no propulsion signature, no communication signature. A derelict, old, enormous, but inert. I was 3 fields into the entry when the second return came. There was no second return. I know that now. What I read as a return was the vessel using my scan's own geometry, the angular spread of the ping, the positions of 40,000 ships that my signal had passed through on its way to the target, as a firing solution. In the 1.2 seconds my scan was in transit, It had mapped the entire cordon. I had sent out a signal that touched every ship Fleet Commander Vol had placed in that formation. I had handed the vessel a complete tactical picture of everything in its vicinity, clearly labeled with the Irevathi Dominion's registry seal, traveling at the speed of light. I had given it the key. The vessel powered up in 7 seconds. I have the sensor log. 7 seconds from cold, oxidized hull to full active signature. I watched the power curve climb on my readout and did not understand what I was seeing. Whatever suppression system it had been running for 31 years, it stepped through in 7 seconds as though the suppression had been a held breath, not a permanent state. The power signature that emerged was unlike any entry in the archive. The hull had stopped reading as inert metal and had started reading as something that had been waiting. I am a grade 6 archivist. I track registry entries. I'm not a military analyst. I did not understand at 1442:14 what I was looking at. I ran the power signature against the archive's complete vessel database, all 460 years of entries, every civilization we have encountered and catalogued, every drive technology we have classified. The match algorithm returned 0 results at every confidence threshold I tried. Not a near match, not a possible match pending verification. 0. The power reading from that hull was not in the archive in any form I could find. I typed into the log, vessel object KETH07 active, power status unclassified, transmitting to Fleet Command. Fleet Commander Vol's response came 3 seconds later. 2 words, all UNITS. That was the last transmission I received from the Enforcement Fleet's command channel. At 1442:31, 17 seconds after the vessel went active, Containment Ring 1 went silent. 400 ships. The sensor web showed 400 contact points and then it showed none. No debris field, no distress transmission, no weapon discharge I could track with my station's instruments. The contacts were there, and then the archive had 400 open entries with no status update. I stared at the display for 2 full seconds before I accepted what I was seeing. I began transmitting to Dominion High Command at 1442:35. I do not know exactly what I wrote in those first transmissions. I have the log. I will not reproduce it here. I was not coherent. At 1442:51, Containment Ring 2 went silent. 800 ships. Same profile present, then absent, with no intermediate state that my sensors could record. No flash, no shockwave reading, no residual heat signature in the zone where 800 ships had been sitting 11 seconds earlier. I stopped transmitting and started recording. I understand now that this was the correct instinct. Whatever was going to happen in Void Sector Keth Null had already been decided the moment my ping reached that hull. Nothing I transmitted to High Command was going to change the sequence. What I could do, the only thing I was trained to do, the only thing I knew how to contribute, was maintain an accurate log. The archive must be accurate, even when what the archive records is this. Ring 3 went silent at 1443:18. 1100 ships. I want to be precise about the silence because the word is inexact. The sensor web did not go to static. The contacts did not blur or distort or scatter. They simply stopped returning pings, cleanly, completely, the way a catalogued entry closes when the subject is removed from record. There was no chaos in the data. The vessel was working through the cordon the way I work through my overnight queue, in sequence, without apparent haste, without error. Each ring fell in the same clean way. The interval between rings was not constant. Ring 4 took longer than Ring 3, Ring 5 faster than Ring 4, but the pattern was not random. The intervals felt considered, deliberate pauses I could not interpret. I logged them anyway. Between Ring 3 and Ring 4, I attempted to raise Fleet Commander Vol on the direct command channel. I transmitted 3 times. I received no response. I do not know whether this was because the channel had been disrupted or because Fleet Commander Vol was no longer in a position to respond. The sensor web showed his command vessel in Ring 3's position zone. Ring 3 had gone silent at 1443:18. I noted this in the log and continued recording. Ring 4, Ring 5, at 1458:44 the reserve mass 6,000 ships that Fleet Commander Vol had held beyond the primary cordon, his last uncommitted force, his fallback, went silent. The reserve formation had been positioned 11 light seconds behind the outer ring. I tracked the vessel's targeting reach across that distance and noted it in the log with the only word I had for it: sufficient. At 1503:41 the scattered remnants of the outer picket, the ships that had broken formation when the rings began collapsing, running at maximum drive output, broadcast a final coordination signal. I tracked 1,100 separate drive signatures spreading across the sector. The vessel, per my sensors, was not pursuing. It was holding position at the center of what had been the cordon, running full active signature, visible to every array I had. It was not hiding. It had not needed to hide for 31 years, and it did not need to now. It held position for 6 minutes. I watched it. I filed entries. I noted the hull dimensions with more care than I had managed in my first panicked pass. The oxidization was real. The hull plating was scarred and mismatched, different metals from different eras of repair visible even at this sensor resolution. It was not a new ship. It had not been built for this moment or any specific moment. It was old in the way the Dominion's oldest registry entries are old, the way a thing is old when it has been used so many times, for so many different purposes across such a span of years, that the original design is no longer the most relevant fact about it. The hull told a history I could not read. 31 years in a sealed pocket register was one chapter. The rest I could only infer from the weight of the plating. At 1509:17 the vessel's active signature dropped back to the minimal level I had recorded in that 7-second window before it fired. Not to zero, to the watching level. Its hull began reading cold again. No propulsion, no communications. It was exactly where it had been at 1442:07, which was exactly where it had been for 31 years before that. I sat with that for a long time. I have been thinking since 1509 about the survey team that sealed this pocket 31.7 years ago. They swept the sector. They found nothing. They logged it and locked the register and moved on. They were correct. There was nothing there when they looked. The vessel arrived later, or it was there, and running something the survey instruments of that era could not detect, or it had been placed there by beings who understood our archive procedures well enough to know which void pocket to use and how long to hold still. I cannot determine which. The archive offers no guidance. This is the first time in 14 years that I have opened a file and found no precedent for what I needed to enter. What I can say with certainty: the vessel knew what a scan was. It knew what a 6-layer containment formation meant. It knew, in 7 seconds, exactly what to do with the targeting solution I had handed it. It did not hesitate. It did not warn us. It did not negotiate or transmit or wait for us to understand what was about to happen. It simply worked, and when the work was done it stopped and went still again, exactly as before, as though 40,000 ships were a queue item and the queue was now clear. I have submitted my full account to High Command. I have attached the sensor log, time-stamped, certified, every entry intact. I have noted the final count: 40,217 ships of the Irevathi Dominion's enforcement fleet are no longer present in void sector Kethnal. The 1,100 picket remnants are running and have not returned. I do not expect them to. I have also done something I have not done in 14 years of service. I have corrected an archive entry. Vessel Object Kethnal 7, length 5.8 kilometers, hull configuration unmatched, origin human pre-registry era, status dormant, holding position void sector Kethnal, Previous threat tier rating, none on record. Revised threat tier rating, submitted to Classification Council for new tier creation, no existing tier is adequate. Under notes I have written 4 words. They are not standard archive notation. I do not know the correct notation for this situation because the archive contains no precedent, no entry, no cross-reference, no historical parallel I can point to and say, this is what we are dealing with. In 460 years of cataloging, the Irevathi Dominion has never opened a file and been unable to classify what it found. We have classified everything. That was the law. That was the foundation. But the archive must be accurate. And the most accurate thing I am able to write is also the simplest. Do not scan it.